It's simple, really. Great stories with a good cup of tea. It's the Tea with Mike show. On this episode of the show, we welcomed Mattie to the show. Mattie told a whole bunch of stories related to teaching, his work in local churches, fundraising, and also the blog that he creates. So grab a cup of tea, sit back and enjoy. All right, guys, welcome to the Tea with Mike show. Joining me for this one is Mattie. Welcome to Tea with Mike.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So this must be the earliest, because of the time difference, that a guest has ever joined me. So whereabouts are you in the world, and what time is it?
Yeah, I live and teach on the island of Saipan, which is Mariana Trench area, so Philippines, Japan. So on the other side of the world of where Mike is right now, and it is 5:41 in the morning.
Awesome. So thanks for getting up early and being here. So let's jump right in. Do you want to start by telling everyone a little bit about you?
Yeah. So as he said, my name's Matt or Mattie. I go by a lot of different titles. Pastor Mattie Ice is the handle for social media stuff. So that's what I go by. But a little bit about me. I just am a pastor. So there is that religion part, but more than spiritual, there's also the social. And I just love to pour into communities, whether it be in the States, which is where I was a pastor previously, but also a nonprofit administrator and just stuff like that. So I love pouring into people, and I've done that all over the world. Been able to teach and been able to lead teams and do construction projects. But the thing that I really am passionate about now and as of late is helping provide clean running water to developing countries around the world. So we either teach local congregants in the States or local youth groups or whoever there, also on our YouTube channel and our Facebook, we teach them how easy it is to make a difference around the world. It's just so simple, and we can just use our talents to do what we can do to make a difference and provide clean running water, because it's something that we all need. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Oh yeah, and I'm engaged, and I'm coming home for the summer to get married.
Awesome. Congratulations on that one. So how has, I guess it's an obvious question, but how has the pandemic affected the message and the mission and the operational work that you're trying to do and spread around the world in different communities? You and I'm sure lots of other people that you work with.
Yeah. So, the main thing is here on the island, it's been difficult because you can't travel. So some of the projects we were hoping to accomplish, but for the longest time, we were virus free here. So that was really cool because, they lock the doors and nobody can really come in. But there have been maybe this whole time. Now, our island only has like 40,000 people. But there have been, 14 cases this whole time. But as a result, we also have lost a lot of tourism. So I've really just started pushing, how can we just see that we can still make a difference some way? Maybe it's not so much running water, but like actual drinking water, but it's a way that we can live. So for instance, a lot of people are having emotional turmoil, or, and I've really called it an emotional pandemic and a relational pandemic. It's not so much a biological pandemic, but it's something that affects us emotionally and relationally. And so the same as people who don't have clean running water all around the world, we don't have things. And maybe it's support emotionally or relationally. Yeah, there's the toilet paper and all that stuff too, but like, how can we get people? And so we've hosted a virtual retirement party, a virtual mission trip, doing a virtual graduation, doing a virtual field day. I'm a PE teacher. So those types of things, how can we pour into people? And as we continue to build the platform, well, once this all goes away, it's like, oh yeah, once this all goes away, then we can just keep pushing in. This is just an easy and practical way. And then also planning on, whenever we're home for the summer, how can we raise at least enough how can we at least raise enough money for one well is our hope for this summer before we come back. So yeah.
Awesome. And then so let's take it back kind of more towards the beginning. How did you kind of get involved with and develop an interest in this line of work?
So as far as traveling, it's, the same for everybody. You just want something more. Growing up in Indiana, I never really realized the beauty of home. And so it's like, this is just corn. And as I traveled around, one, I loved the world, but what I loved more than anything was Indiana. And, once I'm on a 2-year contract here. And so once I'm finished here, next year I will move home permanently and reside in Indiana, because there's just something great about the Midwest that we can accomplish something. And so a lot of people may be like, I hate Indiana, it's boring, it's ugly, it's whatever, and I'll post pictures and they're like, aren't you lucky you have a beach? And I'm like, Indiana can be beautiful if you let it. So I to show them that they can be proud of where they are and then accomplish great things. But the other part about running water is last, I don't know, year and a half ago, 2 years almost, maybe, I got a dog, and she's hypoallergenic. And so for those of you who don't know what hypoallergenic is, if you have a dog allergy, you're not allergic to her because she has hair instead of fur. So I wanted a clean dog, hypoallergenic, and I wanted a running dog, and I wanted her to be an inside dog. So I run, at the time I was running like 6 miles a day, but eventually she can't run that far. So I run, probably 6 to 15 miles a week. But anyway, so I wanted a clean dog, a running dog, and an inside dog. And I was like, I'm going to name her Water. Everybody's like, what? And I'm like, well, who doesn't want clean running water inside? And it was just a joke, really. And I just named her Water. And this is my stand-in for Water, because Water can't come here because the island is clear of all dog diseases and viruses, so you would have to go through a bunch of paperwork and a bunch of quarantine and all that for the dog, several months. So anyway, she's staying in the States with a friend. So but anyway, I had this clean running water, and she and I ended up running, I don't know, 15, 20 miles a week every week. And it just hit me that the local denomination of which I'm a part, they were having a huge running water campaign and trying to raise money. And everyone always talks about how cute this thing is. And I was like, we can raise money for these projects because I have a dog named Water and she runs. So then we started making videos for them. I have this t-shirt. I put her face on a t-shirt, put her face on a water bottle, did some other fundraisers, and we've raised, I don't know, probably close to $5,000. And I'm just a pastor with a dog who happened to know how to start a Facebook page. And so that's what I'm trying to talk about. Like, how can you make a difference? And I said that for years. I'm like, I'm just a pastor with a dog who somebody gave me an iPhone, and we've been able to raise some money. So
great story on that, on the branding side of things, which will help in future fundraisers. When you were growing up, what was some of your interests in school? Were there any people that influenced your childhood, which helped direct you down this path of wanting to make a difference?
Yeah, I think like most people would be, I didn't realize until later, but my parents. So, you're growing up and your parents, like I had a really, really, really good childhood. My parents are great. I tell them all the time they should write a book about parenting. They're great people. But what I'm saying is, you just don't realize, one, the Indiana thing. My dad has lived in the same house his entire life. So there's that. And I'm like, why aren't you moving? Why aren't you going? He was a law enforcer and he had opportunities to relocate and maybe even work for the FBI and those sort of things. He's like, nah, I'm good right here. Just the county sheriff's deputy. And I was like, why don't you want? And then later in life, I'm like, I get it. Like, pour into where you are, love the people. And then my mom would have impacted the other side, because she just loves people. She just loves people. Some people might be like, man, your mom is just annoying, because she just loves them so much. She's like, I'll do anything for anybody at any time. And I'm like, wow. And so put the two of them together. Dad's passionate right where he is. And then mom's just like, I'll love anybody at any time if you need something. And so while I was in undergrad, people would call her Mama Murphy because she would drive 3 hours to come watch our tennis matches. And just because she loved us, and she would take us out to dinner and she would send back pots of chili, and she was just Mama Murphy. So
Very nice, man. So, can you give some, as much as you can share, can you give some, like, maybe some specific examples of where you've directly impacted maybe somebody's life on a more individual basis?
Well, that's a really good question, Mike. So I think being able to share, and we'll start with the States. So having students there who, I was in a socially underserved neighborhood. And so that means, just like with everything, it's spiritually, it's socially, it's relationally, all of it underserved. And just being able to go to basketball games, because I love basketball, and these students, whether it be fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, they were in my neighborhood. I played basketball with them. They hung out. They would come over and play 2K, and just being able to go to their games with them and being able to just hang out with them, or being able to just ride in the car with a student, because I try to not do anything alone. And so it's like, hey, I have to, as a local church pastor when I was in the States, I have to go get a birthday card, or I have to go run to a hospital to visit. I have to do something. And I would just ask a couple of the students or a student or whatever, hey, do you want to go with me? So just pouring in. Again, it's not something big. It's not something huge. Yeah, we've raised some money. I've been able to travel the world. I've been able to tell people and give them hope, and, let them see that today is not the only day, that there is a tomorrow, that they can keep pushing, they can keep trucking. And sometimes bad things happen, like real bad things that you think you just want to give up. And that's fine. You can give up tomorrow. And then if you keep saying that, you'll never give up. Just keep procrastinating. That's the one thing you can procrastinate about, is giving up. And so I've been able to do those things, but really the biggest joy for me is just pouring into friends and family and hanging out with them. And again, goes back to the tagline of our running water events: just make a difference with what you have. It's really simple.
Nice. Okay, so obviously you love traveling. So how many different countries in the world have you been to?
Oh, not that many. We just did a video on how to pack a backpack for traveling around the world. And I was like, oh, I just started traveling later in undergrad. So only like 9, 10 years now. And I've been in 7 countries, and I was so excited. And then I asked Victoria, and she's like, I don't know, like 15 or 16 or something. I'm like, dang it, but she spent a year in England, and then so as a result, she was able to hit a bunch of others. And whereas I've just been to a bunch of islands, and so different type.
Okay, so the places that you've been to, is there any that stand out to you that have left an impact on you?
Definitely the Philippines. That was the second place I went, but that's where I did my internship in college. I spent 2 months there, and I've been back several times since. And now I pretty much go once a year, once every other year. We have a teaching team there. We teach. It's a big conference, so we teach pastors and teachers, just how to be difference makers and different influencers. And so we do that once a year every fall. And then I teach at another like seminary type thing there too, for pastors specifically. But yeah, the people there, and they say the tagline of the Philippines is it's more fun in the Philippines. And they're not lying at all. Like, it's just, they are fun people. Yeah. And I think, going back to an earlier question, Mike, that's what I would say about traveling the world and me impacting others. I don't impact others. Like, they impact you, and you know that. And like the people on the show, they know that we don't impact other people as much as they impact us. And maybe, just maybe, we can pass that on to somebody else.
Also, a nice perspective on the question that I asked. So let's see. So some of the different types of things you've done, so I guess teaching and the fundraising aspect, first of all, what have been some of the challenges and opportunities of those particular roles?
Yeah, teaching can be difficult wherever you teach. And then whenever you teach in a different country or a different culture or whatever, just figuring out those cultures can be a little difficult, especially if you have, like I said, I'm a PE teacher. I also teach Bible, but specifically PE, because I teach all the grades PE. And, the craziest thing for me, and I read a book during grad school about different cultures, and one of the authors said how it's just impossible for a person in the States to be a true teammate. There's always going to be some egoism. They're always going to try to be padding their stats or pushing their agenda or whatever. And I'm like, no, that's not the case. And then I came to a communal, like focused island, and it's like, no, that's absolutely accurate, because a lot of times the students here, they just can't be individuals. They can be competitive, but it's like, it's just the complete opposite. And so as a PE teacher, I like competition, and they're like, they love competition, but communal, they love their whole team winning. And so just changing those games a little bit so that they can actually enjoy them, because otherwise they're not interested, and you have to be able to apply it. So that culture. And as far as the raising money, everybody wants to raise money, Mike. And it's that would be the difficult thing. They're like, oh, here comes another person asking for some money. And until you go, and I mean, we have it easy here. Like, all I have to do to get water is walk to the Mobile, which is right across the street, buy a 5-gallon jug, and walk back. And like, it's simple. Yes, I don't have the luxury a lot of people in the States might have, where they just turn on their faucet that has the reverse osmosis system below, and it just comes out water. But I have it a lot easier than my Filipino friends and my West African friends. Like, I have it a lot easier than they do. I actually can get clean drinking water, and my friends in India. Like, so yeah, it's pretty simple. But a lot of people don't realize how difficult it can be, and they don't even realize how difficult it could be to wash clothes. When I was in the Philippines, they had a huge storm, and like, a lot of things were ruined, and we needed to go wash clothes. So we went into this village, or the whole college students, we went down there, and we start washing clothes in like the dirtiest river I've ever seen, because it just had a huge rainstorm. And so obviously it's coming off all the hills, and it's just muddy and gross, and they're down there washing their clothes in it. And it's stories like that people don't really see, and they don't really think about. So whenever you say, hey, could you help out with $30, $40, $50, they're like, why would I? And I'm like, this is why.
Oh, cool. And then, so obviously, you've met a lot of different people in different cultures, and obviously backgrounds. What is, out of everything that you do, what is one thing do you appreciate the most that maybe another person might not? So, for example, experiencing different cultures and meeting people of all different backgrounds, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. The easiest question is the easiest answer is people. I mean, that's something anyone who's traveled will tell you. It's the people. And yes, the views are cool, and the food is fantastic. Being able to scuba dive next to turtles, being able to ride on things that I'd never heard of before, like Skylabs, where you have a motorbike and then there's 2 pieces of wood next to you, and you have to put equal weight on it to balance this thing. And this guy has like 12 people basically on one motorcycle, and he's going over paths that are like this. That's cool. Those are good stories. People love them. People love the pictures. They love the videos. But it's the people. Like, it's that guy working that, and all you have to do is pay him the equivalent of 50 cents for this however long ride you take. And yeah, just getting to hear his story and getting to know how passionate and how dedicated he is to providing for his family, and the long hours he works just to get that 50 cents for the ride. And again, I've noticed I've talked a lot about money. It's not about the money, because that's what you also learn going about. It's not about money. Plane tickets are expensive. Food can be expensive on islands like here. The money doesn't matter. It's the people, and giving to them and allowing them to give back to you. And yeah, that's what I would say. Just meeting really, really cool people.
Awesome. So from our conversation so far, I get the impression that you're quite adventurous. You like to keep things interesting. If you go back towards the beginning, did you ever have doubts about traveling the world and embedding yourself in other people's cultures? Because for some especially the third world countries, some people might think it's quite scary because it's not the luxury that they used to.
Yeah. As far as that, no, never. However, the one thing I was scared about the first time I traveled, I remember the summer before I went to the Philippines for a summer. So this would have been 2010. I was serving at a local church as an intern there, and the church women can be fantastic. And they're just like, hey, we want to make you dinner. We want to make you dinner. We want to hang out with you. And, as a single guy hanging out, just do it, not making much money, these older women who could be like my grandma, they're like, hey, come on over. And I'm like, they're like, what do you like? I said, I'll eat any food except for fish and vegetables. Fast forward 365 days, and I live a summer in the Philippines, which they mainly eat. So, yeah. So having that was like, not only just eating fish, but also seeing the fish head. And, the person you're sitting with was like, hey, you're gonna eat that? And then another guy is like, who has been able to hang out with Americans. He's like, hey, I'll eat the head. You guys don't have to, So having those nice people, but the food would have been the thing. But again, you learn to love it, you eat it, whatever it is, and just you'll get a snack when you get home.
Very cool. And a little side note, it actually looks very beautiful where you are as the sun just rising, because
yes.
Behind you we got the sun coming up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the sun is actually over there, but this is a white wall, and it would be very bright if I turned the camera around. But behind me is the ocean on the other side of that wall, and then it's like 100 yards that way, and then the mountain. So there's one mountain and one ocean. Just kidding. But there's one mountain in the middle, and so the sun rises over the mountain for me, and then sets in my backyard, which is called the ocean.
It's from what you described, it sounds like a very magical location.
Yeah, it's definitely the tropical island feel. It's pretty great. It's pretty great.
Awesome. So I guess today's tea fact for the episode is black tea. Black tea is the most popular variety of tea. It accounts for over 90% of the tea used in the Western world. And that comes from delishably.com. That's today's tea fact.
All right. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because obviously I have to do research to find all these tea facts, and like lots of things in the world, it's just fascinating what you can learn about the culture and the history of tea.
Yeah. So what's your favorite tea, Mike?
So my favorite tea is Yorkshire tea. It's kind of a strong black tea.
Mm-hmm.
And I put a tiny bit of milk in it. Once in a while, I'll drink another tea if I'm at someone's house. But there's certain things in life where you stick with what you like, and for me, it's one of them.
Yeah, I've noticed that. So like I said, I don't really typically drink tea that much, but I will, and I love fruit tea. And so I have a bunch of Lipton tea packets. And then when Victoria moved over here to get her job at the college, I was like, hey, I got this. And she's like, what are you? No way. Like, so she's, the tea snob is what she would call herself, not me. But I'm like, Lipton tea is fine. You put milk. But I do remember the first time I made her cup of tea, and I was so excited. I'm like, man, because I drink coffee like half and half coffee, half milk. And so once I found out you can put milk in tea, I never knew that. Once I found out you could put milk in tea, I said, oh, I got this. So I put the milk in there, and then I put her tea on top. And she's like, what did you do to this? I didn't realize you're only supposed to put like a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of milk.
Yes, because otherwise you've just got rid of the entire tea bag, and you're essentially drinking milk. It almost looks like grey dirty dishwater. Cool. So another thing you mentioned is you like blogging.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So do you write your own blog for fun, or do you more document your experiences in teaching and fundraising?
Yeah, on our blog site, which is runningwaterevents.com, I have several different tabs on there because I am a pastor and there is the spiritual aspect. But I do understand that some people don't want that, and that's fine. And some people on our team and who help me with the blog and with running, with raising money, they don't share the same spiritual aspect as me. And again, it's whatever, because we also raise money for social awareness and to make sure that people get clean running water. Yes, I have an intent to let's tell them about Jesus, but again, people still need to drink water. Like there's that. So so there are different tabs on there, and there are street stories, and then there's letter from the pastor, and I try to keep the spiritual aspect to the letters from the pastor or the desk of the pastor, whatever that tab is, and the others are strictly about running water and about culture and about travel. And so that's that. And then I recently started this our YouTube channel, which that's Pastor Mattie Ice. I know, a little confusing. One's running water events, one's Pastor Mattie Ice. But the reason I did that is I realized that in our culture, for some reason, not many people like to read as much, but they'll sit there and listen to me tell a story. So most of our videos are just me telling a story, and then I'll put clips over of the images and a little bit of the journey. But it's just me telling a story because, for the, like I said, past 9-10 years, I come home and that's what people want. They want me to tell them a story about what happened, or tell me about the houses, tell me about the money, tell me about the food. And I'm like, fine, I'll just set the camera up, push the button, and tell you a story. And, people seem to enjoy it.
Cool. So moving forward, what are some of the, do you have like a long-term vision for any of these projects, or is it more about just doing the small little things in your utmost every little day, and then over a long period of time that's going to make a significant impact?
I think for me, the current plan is, like I said, we're here for 2 years, 1 year down. And then so after the next year, going back to the States, and I have to finish my doctorate. So, there's that. But after we finish that, then just being able to continue with what we're doing and focus on the blog and the YouTube and just sharing stories. And again, being a part of a denomination, which is just a group or a collection of churches, I'll be able to go to those groups and those camps and conferences and those things. So there are clusters of people. And, if I am fortunate enough to get in clusters of people of schools or, convocations and after school programs and things like that. Because on the videos, on the YouTube channel, much earlier, of course, because she's not here with me now, I have a lot of videos of my dog and I, because she does some cool tricks. And so she and I will go to these camps because kids love dogs, and water has some cool tricks, one of which is our primary thing. She can hold whatever you put on her nose, she can hold it there. And one time I tried, because people are like, how long do you think she would do that? I'm like, I don't know. So I tried it, and she held a carrot, I'm not lying, a carrot on her nose for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. So she just sat there, looked right at me. I'm like, this is crazy. People said that was rude. And so for you animal activists, I just do want to let you know that immediately after that, I sat down to do work on my computer, and I have a Mac, and my little spinny wheel spun for 10 minutes and made me wait. So, I mean, I guess the karma or whatever's out there is like, hey, you make her wait, I make you wait. I'm like, man, this is ridiculous. My computer crashed after that, and I had to get it rebooted. But anyway, so maybe I need to stop making her wait for 10 minutes. But I think for us, we want to travel and just continue showing people where they are, that they can make a difference. Going to the local schools or local churches or local camps and conference, whatever it is, and say, hey, you can make a difference right where you are. That's right where you are relationally. Oh, I only have 4 friends. Well, make a difference with your 4 friends. You're financially, I only have $10. Make a difference with your $10. And your age, everything that we have, you can make a difference right where you are. Do it now. And it doesn't have to be something big. It doesn't have to be something huge. You can just help one person a day. Just do something to make a difference. What does make a difference mean? That's up to you to decide. And it can be a lot of different things. That's what we're going to try to keep doing and continuing with that, and just educating people and hanging out. That's what I'm getting my doctorate's in, is adult education. So being able to just teach people how simple it is to just be a human. I mean, because that's what, again, there's the word pastor, and some people, hopefully you didn't turn off if that's not your thing, because it's more than that. Yes, there's the spiritual aspect, but it's a social aspect. Like, people need water. People need to feel loved. People need to feel connected. And for you, maybe introverts out there, or, distant extroverts who are like, well, this social distancing thing has been perfectly fine for me. Like, I've had friends, they're like, I've been practicing for this thing for my whole life. I love this. This is fantastic. And so maybe you're like, people don't need to be loved. But if you think about it, everyone needs connection in some way. I might need it a little bit more than you, or a little differently than you, but we all need it. And it's super easy to give it to people.
Yeah, and another great answer. So as we come to the end of our conversation today, is there anything that you'd like to ask me?
Well, I asked you about the tea thing. That's what I was most interested in. And you're just like a lockdown on one thing instead of a variety. But I think the other question I would ask for you is something very important here, Mike. If you were crossing the desert, would you rather ride on an elephant or a llama?
No, we wait. Well, I think. I think an elephant.
An elephant. All right. That was my warm burning question, Mike. So.
What, does that tell you anything about me? Or
well, I don't know if it does, but so I've been working on a book, but then I realized maybe people don't read as much, so I use it just for fun now. I might end up putting a book out later about this. I have some other books too, but this book specifically was called 20 Questions for a Perfect First Encounter. And the whole focus of the book was about how can we get, because a perfect first encounter is seeing, do I want to have a second encounter with this person? So a perfect first encounter is not just I enjoyed this time, but how can I make another time with this person if I enjoyed it? And being able to identify that. So that's one of the questions. That was the primary question. And so I've asked that question the most all over the world to people at anywhere you can ask someone, gas stations, airports, wherever people are. I've asked that question. And typically, again, all findings vary, but typically an elephant rider is a person who loves family, loves stability, loves comforts, just loves knowing that the journey is going to get them to the destination. It's just, we're going to go. Whereas a llama rider like myself, we typically say, we're going to get there when we get there, and we're going to have fun doing it, and more free-spirited and more fun-loving. And so those are the basic differences between elephant riders and llama riders. Did I get it right? Is that about you?
Well, I quite actually, the llama sounds more like me, except I think the only reason why I picked the elephant, because in the environment of a desert, is because the desert environment is unfamiliar to me. So I wanted to go with something like sturdy that could navigate, I guess, the terrain a little better. Mm-hmm. So that's why I like the question.
Yep, and that's why a lot of people, that's why it works that way. Elephant's more sturdy, and a llama is just like, what is it? Yeah. So, all right. The desert is unfamiliar to you, huh?
Exactly, yeah. Well, thanks so much for spending some time with me today.
Well, thanks for letting me be here, Mike. It was so much fun. And Water says hi, too.
Hi, Water. All right. This was another episode of the Tea with Mike show. Thanks again, Mattie, for being on.
All right. Thanks for letting me be here, Mike.
And you'll be able to watch this episode of Tea with Mike at teawithmike.com. It's the Tea with Mike show.